But how was your day? How's the week been?
Starting a new job it's
Yes.
interesting. New is
Yeah. Are you settling
it's
in?
good. It's
Oh,
they're
yeah.
making it really easy, so that's nice.
Yeah, that's great to have a good support system in the working environment as well. Thank you so much for making the time for this call. Uh, I'm sure you've seen some of the posts, man. I've just been trying to create conversations with people who I have collaborated with on either the debut album, but more specifically in this conversation, this artwork behind us right here. For those that are unaware, Jennifer Joshua is the artist who brought to life this image as the artwork for Journal Entries EP that was inspired by a photo that was taken by Irv, who's a photographer. So I want to touch on the artistic process involved, just get into some background, So let's go to the beginning. How does painting find you? Or does graphic design find you first?
No, it's definitely painting. Painting is one of my passions. Keeps me creative. It keeps me on point. When it comes to graphics, that's more strict and to a
Hmm.
specific like CI and brand
Yeah,
guideline. There's no
all that.
freedom really. Yeah,
Yeah.
all that weird stuff. But
Okay.
when it comes to like,
No,
yeah.
carry on. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, when it comes to painting, it's an escape. I can say that. Yeah.
Okay. When it first started, though, was it an escape? How exactly are you finding paintbrush and canvases and dabbling? Is there that intention there to be creative, or is it something maybe your parents introduced you to, maybe at school? How are you exposed to the craft itself in the beginning?
So my mother is actually an artist. She was always the one painting and, doing all that good stuff. So I think the apple
Yeah,
didn't fall far from the tree there.
yeah,
Um, but it was more of, disconnecting from like what society wants from you. Like in primary school, you constantly had to learn how to do your ABCs. And I'm just like, I,
mm,
I want a coloring in book. Like that's literally
yeah,
what I want.
yeah,
And then in high school, it's all about now you need to get your matric. Now you need to be focused. And I'm like,
mm,
that's a nice wall right there. I'm gonna paint it until 4 o'clock in the morning because
yeah,
that's so yeah, it's always been just a creative outlet for me
mm,
to just stay focused on being creative because sometimes you get lost in the hustle that you start losing sight of, what you actually enjoy doing. So
mm.
yeah.
So if I understand you correctly, you're saying that coloring books are the first point of reference, and you just had a natural attraction to that process of creating with colors. At that
Most
time,
definitely.
can you see that you can draw? Like it's just natural, or are you building a skill in that as well?
So it was interesting. If I could show you my first drawing, I'd be like, no, that wasn't me. Who's that? Because
Yeah.
it was interesting. But yeah, it always stemmed from, I learned how to draw through coloring in books. So I always use references. For example, most of the paintings that you'll see, I use references because that's kind of how I taught myself. I didn't go to art school. I didn't do like artistic subjects in high school or primary school.
Mm,
So I used references, and that's kind of how I work and how I do my thing. So that's actually how I learned how to draw is just by putting a coloring in book in front of me and then drawing it on a piece of paper and seeing how accurate I can be with it. So yeah.
oh, okay, that's cool. And is there a point where in the process of creating that now people are picking up on the talent and maybe want to ask you to draw things from them, even if it's not for cash at that point? Maybe they just wanted you to do something because they can see the skill.
It has happened. I've been asked to do some tattoos.
Mm,
With tattoos, I'm a little scared though, because that's on your body permanently. And I'm like,
yeah.
can't erase that.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but yeah,
So
they have asked me many times, yeah.
I'm trying to just track the moment where it stops becoming a hobby and now people want you to start exercising your talents for something that they need visually. So is that happening around, your early 20s, out of high school, or when you start working, or is it still a private thing until someone kind of finds out?
So when it comes to when it started becoming less of a passion and more work, was after high school. My mom took a photo of walls I painted, and then her office actually called and said, "Hey, we want you to paint our office walls and do like the studio and stuff like that." So yeah, that's when it started to become more of a work thing and
Mm,
just like doing these small little projects on the side. But obviously, a 9 to 5 came into play, so that's when
yeah.
I had to kind of sacrifice that. But yeah.
Okay. When you start getting these commissions, I guess for painting these walls, have you started studying graphic design?
No, I actually studied graphic design for 2 years.
Mm.
Um, and it was a very short course, and then COVID happened, so I had to learn everything online. So I
Oh
think
man.
that's where it's teaching you how to teach yourself and constantly upskill yourself in so many ways because
Mm.
there's no teacher saying do this, do that. You just have to do it yourself. So yeah, I did that for 2 years, but that was like based off of the art passion and
Mm.
using more guidelines. I thought, I'm
Mm.
more strategic when it comes to designing. That's
Yeah.
why I can't call myself a visual artist, but I can call myself a designer. Yeah.
Okay. What are your favorite types of references? Do you have any biases towards a style that you like to paint, or is it a matter of so long as you have the reference, you sort of treat it as a stencil in a way and just execute?
So I love abstract art,
Mm.
but I also love nature. I love painting nature. It's and incorporating nature and music together.
Mm.
Um, yeah, I think that's one of my top two. There's many
Okay.
more, but yeah, it's all based off of what I'm feeling on the day. So
Mm.
if I'm in nature itself, then I'll paint nature. If I'm listening to music, I'd like to paint something related to music. If
Mm.
Nala's around, I'd probably paint a cat.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's all dependent. It's all dependent on, yeah, my feelings and how I'm feeling at that moment.
Okay. All right, that's interesting. Oh man, I think I just lost my train of thought, but I wanted to ask, so you're now moving from a space of you go from coloring books, you're picking up the passion for painting. At some point pre-COVID, that talent is being commissioned through your parent. You then also upskilling yourself in graphic design. Are you finding moments where what you've learned now in graphic design is influencing your painting style, or are you simply sticking to the mood and the feeling of when your inspiration hits you and you want to paint?
I think I'm sticking to the feeling of the mood, because I think when it comes to graphics and having to stick to a specific, path,
Mm,
um, yeah, as I said, it's very restricting. So I'd
mm,
like to keep my like passion with painting very separate to my like work lifestyle when it comes to graphics because I think that's what I'm doing is I'm making my work lifestyle graphic and
mm.
then when I make my personal lifestyle free and
Yeah.
more disconnected from it. That answers your question.
Yes, yeah. So, in as far as graphic design, is that passion also there? In as far as you had to study, and of course, it's coming from a place of making a living. But are you also connected to that work in an emotional way, even though we're dealing with CIs and brand identities and briefs that are very strict? Yeah.
Um, Yeah, I'm still sticking to that love for it, but
Mm,
I noticed that when that love starts fading, that's when I start moving forward. So the whole reason I got into working with corporate in graphics is because I want to help small businesses kind of grow and kind of make them look visually appealing to how they want to go to the market. Because I know, like, especially nowadays, everything is moving digitally. So
mm,
a lot of companies need that help, but they don't really have the funds to actually get it. So I
mm,
think that's what brings my passion is I love helping people and
mm.
having this opportunity and the skill to actually offer it to them. That's kind of what keeps me going and what keeps me doing this graphic design is just, you know, assisting people where they need a hand or two.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you raise a very great point there, and I think that's beautiful. Is the idea of inspiration being grounded in having a purpose with it, you know? And in your
Mm.
case, as you mentioned, you empower businesses to present themselves visually as best as they can with your assistance and their guidance on their vision, so that they can get more business and they can sustain themselves, at least from the outside looking in, and then everything else falls onto their services themselves. I think that's beautiful. I also wanted to just call back to your previous points because I think now I remembered what I had forgotten, which was that I also share a similar relationship with nature and art because my first EPs, I remember my intention was that okay, I have a friend, Manzi, shout out to him. He's amazing on the camera. We're low on funds, but I need to shoot these cover arts. He brings a couple props in. So we had the mask. And at that time, I think I was on my Frantz Fanon kind of tip where I'm like black skin, white masks, and depression is a symbol of black dog. And we're unraveling this character over 3 EPs, over 3 years. And at each point, we knew that the formula became we would go to a nature reserve. So 2016, we went to Mhlanga, which is Durban North. Then we went to Karklu for Black Dog 2, which is like Hillcrest side, more inland. And then Black Dog 3, we went to Karklu, but in a very secluded area. And all of those moods and feelings were reflected coincidentally just in going to experience nature and let that mood dictate how you're inspired. So I definitely draw parallels to how you can draw that same inspiration just looking around and being inspired. I see Nala's also made an appearance here as well.
She had to. She had to. She's half of
Yeah.
my life.
So do you ever struggle with the balancing of like the demands? I know graphic design can sometimes have tight deadlines, or you can just be swamped with a lot of deadlines. Do you ever find that maybe like in a new week or on a weekend you want to draw something because you're inspired, and then work kind of cuts in? Um, is it easy to get back to that inspiration? Because you did mention that you're inspired by the mood. So I'm trying to figure out if the mood leaves you, can you recapture the feeling after handling life and adulting?
So that's one thing that I am so strict about when it comes to painting. I need to know that my schedule is completely open
Mm,
because if there's any distraction, yes, as you said, it kind of disconnects me from what I was feeling at that moment and, the rhythm that you were going through. And I remember there was one painting I did where it was about 9 o'clock at night. And I was like, I have to finish it. I have to. And yeah, I stayed up until like 4, just finishing a painting on a wall
oh
because I
man.
was like, I can't sleep if it's
Yeah.
incomplete. Then that just disturbs me. Um, or it'll turn into a completely different painting if I finish half of it and the other side is just like completely different. And then everyone's like, what happened? I'm like, it's 2 different days, it's 2 different feelings. I can't explain to you why. But yeah, so when it comes to juggling and keeping everything like in order, so with freelance, I have a specific time that I work. I don't move past that. I'll work from, let's say, I get home, I work from 7 until 10, and then that's when I cut off. But that's if I have jobs on the line, or I just do a lot of things in advance. If I know I want to have a painting weekend, I'll make sure I have everything done by Friday so that my Saturday is completely open. Because, yeah, tight deadlines are a thing. But luckily, with this new place that I'm at, it's more free. It's more like there's more freedom, there's more time to myself and to do the work that I actually enjoy and love doing and helping. Yeah, Nala just felt like she had something
You
to
have to
say
say
in that
what's up.
moment.
That's amazing, man. I think it also speaks to because in my mind, I'm like painters are so strict because I imagine that making mistakes and trying to, I guess, work through them and paint through them is not as easy because you kind of have to see it in your mind and then execute. Whereas if I'm a musician recording demos, right, I can record the demo and get as much of the feeling out as possible. And I relate to what you're talking about, staying up late, right? Where if I'm inspired and I need to write a verse, and part of that verse means that once the feeling is out, I need to edit it. I can spend like 6, 7 hours just like sounding it out and then like getting the words out. And I'm forgetting to eat. I haven't had water. Maybe the water is like the one thing I'll have because I need to just be able to still rap it out. But it's still something that can consume you like that. And in some ways, I love that feeling because you're just moving with something that almost feels bigger than you in a sense, right? And you're being a vessel and you're bringing it to life. So I think what I appreciate is also just calling back to this artwork, right? I'd approached you after I had sat down with Irv and we had a creative like direction. And what I appreciate is like the efficiency in which you were able to kind of map out the image, because that was a new process for me moving from cover art that was photography to now in this canvas space. Because in my head, I was like, okay, you know what? I want to like connect things visually. And I like the ideas of trilogies, right? So between this debut, the EP, and the album I'm working on, the sophomore one, my intention was like, it would be dope to have, you know, on TikTok, they sometimes show you those infinite pictures where you zoom out and it's just a picture in a
Uh-huh.
picture. So that was the feeling I
Mm-hmm.
was going with when I was like, how do I connect the debut album to this in a way that's dope for me? And I thought that would be great because once we had figured out the concept and the creative direction with Irv, you made such a seamless process of translating it on canvas that even the colors of the yellow against, you know, how it looked as a photo, really gave the warmth that I was looking for. So I think that's testament to the graphic designer in you who can interpret briefs quite efficiently, and the artist who is
Yeah.
able to just execute on the painting. So I want to thank you for this conversation. Thank you for the time you've given. Is there anything you want to plug? Are you taking in commissions to people through your business?
Not at this moment. I'm still trying to figure everything out. But yeah, when
Got you.
I do get there,
Yeah.
I will.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jennifer. I really appreciate the time, man.
Thanks, Lou. It's been great.
Carve out the words that were genuine. It's letter with money off of your uncles and heritage. Holding knuckles with wedding ring. I'm getting ahead of myself, safe in the present sense. There's honey and etiquette. I'm tracing the blessing made from the scars and their recompense. Peeled off a pessimist to heal.